Hey, listen, I just want to say thank you so much. It's a pleasure to speak to you. I've been listening to the Live in New York City album all week, and I don't need my morning cup of coffee when I go to work anymore. All I got to do is turn that on. I'm good to go.
That's awesome, man. I know.
I tell you, man, I love your voice, man. It's very Texas, very ZZ Top, you know.
Oh, well, wow. Yeah, well, I'm kind of a product of the environment.
Right, I hear you. I want to ask you because I know you're a busy guy, so I'll make it quick. I want to ask you, like, as a young kid, you know, most kids, you know, they sit there and they go, "I want to be an astronaut, a police officer, a fireman." Did you know that you wanted to be in this business when you were a kid?
Absolutely. I sure did. Yeah, I did. When I remember when I was a toddler, when I was, 2, 3 years old probably,
Mm-hmm.
my dad was showing me footage of Elvis Presley at the 1968 comeback special video.
The black leather one.
Yeah, the black leather suit, and that was the one and they're kind of all sitting around in that circle playing guitars and telling stories.
Yeah, with Scotty Moore and all them guys. Yep.
Exactly, and I saw that when I was probably 2 or 3 years old. And I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to play those guitars like that, you know.
Now, did you want to play the guitars for the music, or was it to get the girls?
Well, I don't know. Probably both.
Probably both, right?
Yeah, it's a package deal. Yeah, both.
Now, I tell you, one of the big influences that I hear in your music is Stevie Ray Vaughan. Was he a big influence?
Absolutely. I saw Stevie Ray Vaughan in June of 1990. I was about 12 years old, and yeah, it was pretty much a life changing experience. Seeing Stevie Ray perform in concert was what kind of set me on the path to the blues. You know, that's really where I was like, I'd been drawn to the blues. I was a big Jimi Hendrix guy when I was a kid. You know, Jimi Hendrix was kind of it.
Yeah.
So I was always I was searching for somebody else that could encompass that power. And I saw those guys back in the 80s, and I was like, man, I'm not really feeling it. And then I saw Stevie Ray Vaughan, and then that's when I was like, oh, man, here's the guy. And then he was gone, all of a sudden. So,
I know. Any other influences?
Well, of course. Well, you got, of course, Billy Gibbons and Johnny Winter and kind of the atypical guitar hero, influences like, I've got, of course, the Three Kings, Albert King and Freddie and B.B. King, and then, of course, kind of what I call the three British kings. You got Jimmy Page, Eric Clapton, and Jeff Beck.
Oh, yeah.
Those were kind of the main guys then. But then, my biggest influences where I was really getting drawn more towards the blues were guys like Alvin Lee and Leslie West.
Wow.
Those were the guys that I was really drawn to before I saw Stevie Ray. Because it was very bluesy.
Mm-hmm.
It was just hard blues rock, and so that's where I really started kind of going, man, this is this. And this was during the 80s, when there was a lot of the shred metal and hair metal and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly. Yep.
And I was a kid that was drawn more towards, Mountain than, all the other kids listening to Poison and
Then Bon Jovi and all that.
Bon Jovi and Rat and all that. And I was like wanting to listen. I was like a decade behind, and all the kids were like, "Oh man, that's old stuff." And I was like, "Well, this is like the real deal."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I knew then as a kid that Mountain was so much more heavier than Rat or something. You know what I mean? Like whatever their kids were listening to when I was a kid. So I was like a decade behind.
Sure.
So that was like kind of where, but I thinking about it later on, I was like, realizing that it was all blues based. All the stuff that I was really drawn to and loved had its roots in blues. All the guys had been, all those bands had been great blues bands. Before they kind of became rock bands. So.
Yeah, all these rock bands, if it wasn't for Robert Johnson, where would rock music be right now? That's where it all started.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where, when I saw, and that's exactly what I did, because I saw a movie when I was a kid back during that same era called Crossroads with Ralph Macchio.
Yeah, that's a badass movie with Steve Vai in it. Was in it also.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I saw that movie, and they talked about Robert Johnson. So I thought, wow, okay, that's cool. That must be what the blues is. And so we saw Stevie Ray Vaughan in concert, and the very next day I went to the record store and found the only Robert Johnson album they had that was out at that time.
Yeah.
I took it home, and that's where I started. I started all the way back over with the acoustic guitar, and then worked my way through the blues.
Robert Johnson's badass, man.
Oh yeah, man. Oh man, he was it. He was the king of that stuff.
I mean, just to kind of go back and be there and be like, how did this guy pick up this wooden instrument with strings on it and figure it out? I mean, just to put that kind of music out, it's mind blowing.
It really is. I mean, it really is. And he sounds like, Robert Johnson. He sounded like 4 or 5 guitar players.
Exactly. Yep. Now,
it was just incredible.
Now, as a guitarist, are you self-taught?
I am, absolutely. I was self-taught. I grew up in a neighborhood where a lot of kids played guitar, and we all kind of shared ideas and played together. And one kid, would learn something and share it with the other kids, and a couple of kids were taking lessons, and they would come and show what they've learned. So, I didn't take any formal lessons, and it's kind of funny because nowadays I'm a guitar instructor myself. So I give guitar lessons and stuff. So it's kind of funny. I was self-taught. I've kind of sat down with some people all throughout the years, and anytime that I have an opportunity to sit down with a great guitarist and have some direct lessons, but I really didn't start taking lessons until way later on. Like when I wanted to learn how to play slide guitar, I was like fortunate enough to sit with Johnny Winter and get taught by Johnny Winter how to play slide.
Right. I was fortunate before he passed away to interview him like 2 years ago. And he used to travel around in this little motorhome, So we're at this little club here in Fort Lauderdale. He parks it in the back of the club in this alley. We go inside. We sit at the little dinette table he had in there. And I'm talking to him, and I swear I'm going, is this guy falling asleep on me? Because he had these heavy eyes, you know what I mean? But he looked like he was sleeping, And we did the interview. He was great. He signed a guitar for me and everything, so I was happy as shit. Then we go into the venue. He needs help walking on the stage. They sit him down in a chair. He picks up this guitar that's headless, and the drum started, and this guy woke up. My God, he just freaking came to life, and I tell you, it's one of the best shows I ever seen. Unbelievable.
Yeah. That's amazing. I know. I love Johnny. He was a dear friend, and Johnny was my friend, and I miss him every day, and I think of him often, and I just think about all the good times that we had just hanging out. You know, there was a lot of stuff with guitar playing, and it was really cool that it was, I was able to learn directly from Johnny Winter a lot of stuff, and he taught me so much about the blues and about everything else. But the stuff I miss the most is just, drinking chocolate milkshakes and eating hot dogs.
Yeah, huh?
You know what I mean? And watching movies. Just sitting on the motorhome, just watching movies and eating hot dogs and drinking milkshakes. It's like. That was the Johnny that I loved and knew, my buddy. He was my buddy, and we'd have fun or watching The Simpsons or whatever, It's like,
hey, you can't get better than that, man.
Yeah, I miss him, man. He was my buddy.
Well, he obviously left a good legacy with you because you're carrying on the blues like unbelievable, man.
Wow. Well, thank you.
Now, as a vocalist as well, do you do anything to maintain your voice?
I really try to warm up when I can. I really try to take care of it as much as I can nowadays. I used to kind of drink real heavy and smoke a lot. Now I've kind of cut a lot of that out, but that's kind of added to the tone of it.
Sure.
But nowadays, it's tea, honey, ginger, all that kind of, the usual stuff. I'll gargle with sea salt every now and then, but I don't want to make it too pretty because that kind of cuts out some of the character of my voice.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you have a great speaking voice and a great singing voice, man.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Really, thanks.
So now, what's next for you in the near future? What's coming up?
Well, we're going. I've got a new band that I put together with some really legendary, phenomenal musicians out in Los Angeles a couple years ago. We just have an album that just came out, and it's called Supersonic Blues Machine.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm it's Kenny Aronoff on drums and Fabrizio Grassi on bass. And our albums, we've got Billy Gibbons on the album and Warren Haynes on the record, and Robin Ford's on it, Walter Trout, Chris Duarte, Eric Gales. I mean, we got all of our friends and family, that are not only our great friends, but also our family and favorite guitar players on the record. And it's a pretty cool situation. It's kind of like it's being in a band. It's not just me, kind of leading a power trio. It's more like kind of like a super group power trio, kind of like Cream.
Yeah.
It's kind of that. It's kind of like that kind of vibe, It's kind of like us putting together something like that. Cream was always one of my favorite bands of all time since I was a child. So I mean, it's almost kind of that same kind of vibe. But we just put out a record on Mascot, and it's we're planning on doing it during the summer overseas and elsewhere. And then then I'll be out touring. When I'm not doing that, I'll be out with my trio, touring on, in support of the Live in NYC record.
Well, I tell you, that lineup is definitely legendary, and it actually puts Ringo Starr and his all-star band to shame.
Oh, man. Well,
it does, man.
It's kind of like the blues rock version of that, I guess,
Well, I actually have an interview coming up with Robin Trower, who's coming next month to our neighborhood, so I'll let him know I talked to you.
Oh, my gosh. That's one of my biggest heroes, man, of all time, ever.
Yeah, he's phenomenal, man.
Absolutely. I went last June and saw Robin in Dallas, and I sat on the front row, and I'm serious. It was like I was 12 years old again. I was like a little kid, and all the other great guitar players and Andy Timmons and all these other great guitar players were there, and we felt like we were 10 years old, 12 years old again. We were all like little kids, and I went and met up with Robin at the meet and greet afterwards, and I'd never met Robin Trower. I've covered his songs on my records, and he's been one of my biggest heroes. I'll tell you how funny. Let me just sidebar off into that. When Nirvana came to Dallas and played this big club called Trees, probably 91 or 92, I was at home learning Bridge of Sighs and For Earth Below note for note on both those albums. My brother's girlfriend busts in and she's like, you got to come see this new band, Nirvana, and I was like, oh, man. So we went down there. And I went to the girl, and I can't believe you drove me away from my Robin Trower records to go see this. I was like, I don't know if I can deal with this, but that drummer's great. That was like I was in constant Robin Trower when Nirvana came out. We went and saw Nirvana, and I was like, wow, I don't know, but that drummer's awesome. So anyway, but we went, and we went last June, and I'd never met Trower. He was my biggest hero. One of my biggest heroes, and I walked up to him and at the meet and greet, and I stuck my hand up to shake his hand, and he said, "Hello, lad." And I was like, "Oh my God!"
Wow, he knows who you are.
Trower said my name. He knew who I was, and I was just like, I just couldn't even speak. I was looking at everybody, and they were laughing like thumbs up at me, and I was going, I can't even talk right now.
Oh my
Robin
God.
Trower knew my name.
Well,
always been one of my all-time biggest heroes, and I love Robin Trower.
When I see him, I'll let him know that we talked.
Absolutely.
Hey, Lance, I want to thank you so much for your time and your consideration for doing this interview. It's going to be up by tomorrow afternoon. I'll send it to John, and hopefully he'll forward it to you, and you can take a peek at the layout and everything and how we set it up, and we hope to see you down here in South Florida real soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Billy. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, will do, buddy. Safe travels.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.